Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name's DB333, and welcome back to Hutch Round 4, the New Order of Last Days of Europe as the United Soviet Federation. In the last video, we took out the capitalist pigs over here in the West Siberian Republic, formerly Sverdlovsk, and we are beginning the ultimate race to reunite Russia. We might start with Kazakhstan coming up, but that's yet to be determined. I'm guessing we're gonna have... I did a little bit of research off camera, and I think we're supposed to have something coming up soonish. I'll take Yelena Nikolayevic as a spy. Why not? Crisis in Nanjing. We'll see what happens there. Excerpts from the Great Soviet Encyclopedia, 2nd edition. For Zhdanov's solution, the realization that ultravisionary socialism is destined to spread throughout the universe, as determined by paramount leader Andrei Zhdanov's intense study of the immortal science of ultravisionary socialism, originally promulgated as a solution to the Fermi paradox of Italian-American physicist Enrico Fermi, which observes the apparent contradiction between the lack of evidence of extraterrestrial life and the immense likelihood of its existence. Paramount leader Zhdanov discovered that the most likely block to this advancement of extraterrestrial light to the interplanetary and intersolar stages of development was the persistence of backward stages of development, feudalism, capitalism, and fascism on alien worlds. With the immortal science, of ultravisionary socialism only existing on Earth, brought to us by the unique genius of Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Zhdanov, only Earth holds the possibility of rising to a higher stage of interplanetary, intersolar, and perhaps even intergalactic development. It is thus the duty of the Soviet Federation, as one true embodiment of ultravisionary socialism, to spread itself first across the Earth, and then to alien worlds suffering under the oppression of primitive barbarism. The Intersolar Soviet Federation, a future spacefaring intersolar civilization founded on the principles of ultravisionary socialism, as vaticinated by paramount leader Andrei Zhdanov. Starting on Earth, the Intersolar Soviet Federation will spread from planet to planet, liberating alien species from the oppression of feudalism, capitalism, and fascism. Its armed forces, the Intersolar Red Armada, will obliterate all enemies in its path, assisting extraterrestrial workers and peasants in their struggle against their oppressors. It will educate the alien workers in the teachings of Marx, Engels, Lenin, and Zhdanov, and ingrain in them a deep understanding of the mortal science of ultravisionary socialism. Ultimately, the Intersolar Soviet Federation is destined to expand throughout the universe, ushering in a final universal Soviet Federation, an eternal aeon of universal peace, prosperity, and liberty. Unity with our extraterrestrial comrades. Man. Huh. Okay. Let's look towards the ultravisionary method. The paramount leader in the future of humanity stands before a critical decision. Will we seek to establish ourselves as dominant terrestrial power, eliminating the regressives of Germania, bringing millions of workers to participate in the establishment of our new superculture? Or will we secure our ascendancy by developing technology that would have been unthinkable only mere decades ago, and boldly transgressing the most optimistic expectations of reactionaries and even our own scientists? The choice will determine the distribution of our resources for years to come. In our unification, there can be no half measures. Project Rainbow Body. Failed. Fuck! A dark room. Scattered lights bled throughout the abyss. There was nothing beyond the metal grate to which she was tied. There was no conception of comfort to be found in this place. She craned her neck, only for red rays to pierce her eyes. Out of the nothing, shaking erupted. A tremor of reality's hand. Deathly noises exploded from across the sound scrape. Bullets ripping through flesh, minds tearing through victims. the quaking of her bunker. A haze followed the pressure of the light, forming absorption lines. Her eyes widened to the pain, the sound and colors forming a barrier of absolution. A new noise, a voice with the complexion of a grainy, half-cut transmission, boomed from below. Locked military emplacements. She trembled, looking at the corners of her vision. Darkness appeared to fizzle, to bloat and pop, to warp around the edges of her vision. Suddenly a thunderclap. The grate to which she was tied shook with fury unknown to mind. By the end, the colors had transformed. They slid to and fro, passing freely throughout the starry manifestations of shadow which surrounded her. Look at your deployment. She focused her eyes to remain locked on a pocket of reality's consciousness. Out of the motion, a magnetic energy tied to its tendrils to her grate. The darkness unleashed forth a solar flare of umbra. A conversation pierced the ethereal plane. Battle plans, divisions, logistics, and other such words broke through, but what were words to mean anymore? The colors pushed together and melted into a single stream of raw, erosive energy. The darkness bloated, and no matter where she looked, the spots never left her sight nor moved their position. The colors formed a cyclonic tide around the blots until an image was birthed from void. Reality's pupil. It moved ever forward, the colors rotating around its form ever faster, until swallowing her. She would be the next follower of Vision. That was all it would ask of her. But we ask everything. So that didn't work. But you know, I'm feeling... I'll give myself a little bit of extra political power just so we can get working on our human cybernetics program. Work shall begin on a revolutionary brain-computer interface to be utilized with live human subjects and tested with mechanical devices. Through conditioning and providing mental feedback to the subject, more practical methods of interface between technology and the human mind shall be developed, and more complex mechanical devices shall gradually be implemented into the program and tested with trained subjects. Future applications of this project into the fields of computing shall be studied, and scans of the brain while in operation shall be produced. This sounds fucking insane. My God. And I mean, while we're here, we'll go ahead and get working on invading Kazakhstan. We also have some more cores that we eventually got to get to, but we'll worry about it in time. The ultra-visionary method. We are faced with a momentous and serious choice. We could take it slow, so it would mean a measured attempted transition to our ideals. In the meantime, we would focus most of our efforts on reclaiming Soviet land. Or alternatively, we could look to the future. We would be neglecting both our people's quality of life and a little bit of our economy, but that sacrifice would be in the pursuit of eventual completion of our true goal, the socialist superculture. So should we stay the course or try to move 2 steps at once? The future waits for no man. Let's work on closed cities, actually, while we're here. With our rapid development in the realms of science, we must ensure that no regressive who seeks the easy path can steal our advances from us. We must take whole cities, devote them entirely to our scientific progress, and close them to all non-approved individuals. Security is paramount, and doubly so when dealing in nuclear secrets. Valentine marveled at the prototype activated. There was a hum of energy, and the fighter in front of him went completely silent. Similarly, the laser wiped out a radar system without harming the dog sitting next to it, and the Scotty prototype effectively tracked and disabled 3 aircraft, forcing their pilots to bail. It was surprisingly silent, too, a small buzzing sound that was easily drowned out by the sound of a generator's roar. The prototype had surpassed all expectations he had for it, and the scientist next to him kept rambling on and on about the many scientific miracles that went into building it. Clearly he was proud of his work. So, Comrade Zhdanov, how much would it cost to make these more miraculous weapons? They've clearly proven their effectiveness. The general expected some long-winded response from the overly talkative scientist, but instead he went deathly pale and went silent. That couldn't be a good sign. Project Shati results. Partial success. Conclusion. While the Project Shati prototype exceeded all expectations and passed all tests with flying colors, the officer overseeing the test initially advocated for production until learning of the cost. The artificial rubies used to focus the laser are prohibitively expensive and drastically raise the cost of production. This alone makes Project Shati unfeasible for mass production. However, the design is also limited by its massive power requirements, which likewise raise the design's cost. General Varenikov suggests handing the prototype over to the propaganda department on the basis of the prototype being absolutely marvelous. Shati was simply ahead of its time. And so be it. We have laser anti-air systems. Very nice. Oh. Improved jet fighters. Let's get to advanced jet fighters. Improved anti-air ones. Let's get them. No? We could strike him directly. Invade as well. We could have also just taken them out right there and then. Which would have been interesting, but... Let's integrate Yuga for now. Let's just make a beeline for Alma-Ata. Could do the atomic age. Let's assess for reclaimed territories. We are under no illusions about the difficulties inherent in our ventures to create a unifying superculture from the disparate masses of humanity. Still, against all odds, we have subsumed millions of individuals into our collective, and now possess a great deal of territory along with all the resources that come with it. Above all, the oil fields we have captured will provide us with power, fuel, and funding for our projects. Our tractors, tanks, and soon our rockets shall run on this black gold, propelling our expansion to lost territories to the east. The remainder shall be sold to fund our scientific projects, serving the interests of the Soviet people. An administrative committee will be created to evaluate the qualities and uses of this and other resources, and ensure maximum efficiency of our efforts. Excellent. Go into Gurju. Nikolai Kardashev sat in his chair, watching as the delegates spouted their choice on who would be the new People's Commissar of Energy. There might have been some suspense if there had been any other candidates available to choose. Once the final member of the Supreme Soviet had given their vote, Kardashev had been elected the new People's Commissar of Energy. He nervously walked towards the podium, attempting to tune out all the things, both good and bad, being said about him, as he climbed the steps and took his position before the Supreme Soviet. Comrades, I cannot thank you enough for this gracious opportunity. I promise to you that I will not squander such a promotion, that I will dedicate myself fully towards ensuring the prosperity of our great revolution. Energy is the key to civilization's potential. We must harness this potential if we ever wish to spread socialism and harmony to the stars above. I will do all I can to facilitate our advancement towards the next step of our civilization. I will do all I can to support the ultra-visionary cause. Once again, I must thank you all, and long live our revolution. Now Kardashev sat in his new office. He had certainly moved up in the world, but he wasn't sure he could catch up to his success. Kardashev had no experience running an organization this large. He was going to need help. Kardashev took a folder from the stack positioned upon his desk. He was going to live up the world he needs. As he said in his speech, he was going to need the best and brightest minds Russia could provide. Everything's moving so quickly. Now it's actually a race to see who can take what quickest. Which I'm down for. This is a bit more interesting than it usually goes. Let's do necessary material conditions. The German invasion has set back our progress by an unacceptable degree. And one of the greatest weaknesses of our new Russia is the living conditions of its people. Infrastructure has been broken apart, cutting our citizens off from networks of guidance created by cities. Farms have been burned and salted, reducing our population's ability to fulfill the most basic of human needs. This is an unacceptable state for the Soviet superculture to be in. The individual units of this collective must be functional for it to function at full capacity. And we must uplift the lowest among us before we can uplift humanity. The broken links between dissolute portions of humanity must be repaired on a physical and psychological level, and we shall never allow ourselves to be divided again. Speaking of division, shit. Battery industrial equipment. Can we beat them? That's the question of the day. They're close to capitulating. It's all going to depend on who causes them to start first, I think. Abstract. Population 20 males and females. Designation none. We're placing the facility redacted. The compound built over the last 3 months is in complete secrecy. Is a small town isolated by walls. Through a complex system of tubes and pistons, we are able to supply the town with virtually endless food, clothing, and entertainment materials. No labor is required in the facility redacted, but all inhabitants are observed through cameras and wiretappings. Through the experiment, we gradually introduced more and more subjects of various ages and genders. The experiment went on for 6 months. Results. Observations reveal that the subjects voluntarily participate in social activities, such as working out, reading and feeding, and engaging in sexual intercourse. Contraceptives were also provided. However, as months went on, strange trends began to develop. Cliques had formed between subjects. People refused to eat or sleep without the presence of their group. Vicious fights over females ensued, and 3 children were born. None of their mothers or fathers displayed caring, leading to the death of one in month 5. Certain individuals refused to join groups, in turn being ignored by everyone, existing as ghosts whose activities only included sleeping and eating. Towards the final month, most individuals refused to leave sight of their group. Unsurprisingly, most subjects occupied their time with leisure activities. Conclusion. No conclusive data was found. People enjoyed their stay, and we had to force to remove some of them to break to the gulag to continue manual labor. Post-test, the compound has been converted back into a barracks. Surviving children have been placed into an orphanage. The adults re-injected into gulag in their same groups. Entertainment and sex. Who'd have thunk it? Oh, that's not good. Let's get you some help. We got our... Any more victory points nearby? Not quite. Jesus Christ. Well, this experiment ended in failure. And do you want to give us Omsk back? There we go. We got it. That's all that matters. Got quite a few options on what to integrate next. I think we'll start with... Let's go with Uralsk first. I'll give myself a little extra political power just so we can get working on some of these others. So PP 100. Let's do the Collective Environment Initiative. Specialized series of habitats with no opaque solid walls or means of gaining privacy shall be constructed. The volunteer population inserted to them for a period of 4 months. Rigorous observations of the introduced subjects shall ensue, with the primary goal of this experiment being to compare the subjects' concepts of privacy and transparency from the first to the last days of the experiment, as well as measuring levels of social anxiety. Let's do it. Next, let's do Project Sotka. Experiments into a high-altitude, high-speed bomber armed with newly developed heavy cruise missiles or batteries of smaller artillery rockets shall commence as countermeasure advanced German interceptor craft and land-based anti-air batteries. The bomber is to make use of newly developed advances in the fields of aerospace engineering and have a veritable geometry wing design with a folding cockpit for ease of landing. About to click the other one. Let's do Sotka. Let's observe cultural shifts. It's not enough to shape and mold the superculture. The sculptor must monitor his clay, particularly when he works with such materials as the human race, and ensure it is formed and fired properly. Conformity to the principles of the paramount leader is to be encouraged, while deviation is to be corrected. Active deviation is to be forcefully corrected. To this end, we shall deploy trained architects of a superculture to monitor every facet of life for the collection of data, obtain feedback on the efficacy of our methods, and detect regressives within our ranks for prompt re-education. Those who would disrupt the paramount leader's plans disrupt the progress of mankind and shall not be tolerated in any form. There we go. Let's get some research going over here real quick. Got our doctrines. What else do we need? Let's get another boost to research speed, though we certainly don't need it. Let's do flexible automation techniques. Oh, we got a ton of stuff we can. Ton of factories that we can get to allocating. There we go. Pitchigan hacked into the lumber with a mighty swing of his axe. The log split in twain, the 2 pieces tumbling to the ground with a thump. He wiped the sweat from his brow. He'd been chopping timber for the entire morning and his muscles ached. Preparation for the winter were often a strenuous task. Perhaps he needed a break. Papa! Papa! There's people in the village! Pitchwin set his axe aside. Come now, Archimova. What kind of people? Outsiders! They want everyone in the village to come meet them. Pitchwin gritted his teeth. Outsiders always brought with them danger and bad luck, whether they be raiders from Urals or those liberals in Tomsk. All he wanted for his community was to live simple, peaceful lives in service to God. Not troubled by the chaos of the rest of Russia, but if they wanted to talk, so be it. The entire village crowded around the company of Red Army soldiers. They watched these men with weary eyes, knowing well what their sort often wanted. Their leader, an officer of sorts, stepped forward and cleared his throat. My fellow comrades! Under the decree of our paramount leader, Andrei Zhdanov, your village has been liberated from the grip of anarchy. You are united under the glorious protection of the Soviet Federation. Today is but one step forward to your true destiny, comrades. A destiny that we all share. One that lies beyond the stars. For as our superculture expands across the planet, it cannot remain here forever. The flame of ultravisionary thought must be spread across interstellar space to unshackle the extraterrestrial from the chains of fascism, feudalism, and capitalism, and to usher in a superculture across the universe under the guiding wing of the Universal Soviet Federation. The glories above lie in waiting, my comrades, and with your help, we will see them in our lifetimes. The crowd didn't respond. An awkward silence settled the air. It was hard to come up with a reply to anything, the man said. I'd like to return to my cabin now, please. We got a new army group. Who do we want to get? Let's go Sergei Solokov. I think we'll go ahead, reduce this front a little bit. We'll get a bit of a different front line going here. We'll have you guys eventually push out here as far as you can. You guys have a similar goal. We'll get to there when we get to there. Artillery. Light aircraft engineering. What do we want? Let's get some resource extraction techniques going. Junior Sergeant Volkov enjoyed his job. The People's Commissariat of Science paid well, the hours were good, and his tasks were usually fairly routine and easy. He also enjoyed the human element. Volkov was a reserved private person with no family and very few friends. Listening on people for the Commissariat gave him a sense of connection to people he felt he would otherwise never have, even if they were total strangers. Oh, it's a proto-podcast, I like it. Some he even grew attached to. One old man, a retired violinist, routinely played his instrument in a small apartment on the third floor of the complex. He was of little interest in terms of scientific observation, yet Volkov still listened in almost every day. He came to love and depend on the old man's little personal recitals. When the old man finally died, Volkov felt the loss dearly. He even broke protocol and attended the old man's funeral from a distance, leaving flowers at his grave after his family and friends had departed. Another subject Volkov grew close to was a florist who lived in one of the second-floor apartments. He grew to love the sound of her voice, on the phone with her mother, or drinking with a friend, or just talking to her flowers, which he treated with great care and fondness. Volkov wrote down her every idle move, the notes then fed back to the scientist for analysis. Then, one day when hosting a party at her house, Volkov caught her disparaging Paramount leader Zhdanov, calling him an unhinged lunatic. Volkov felt great mental anguish over this incident. Of course, he ultimately turned her in. While the directive was merely to observe and document cultural and social shifts in the population, they were also duty-bound to report an anti-ultravisionary behavior and speech. She would do a short stint at a re-education camp and be back in no time, yet when she returned, she was much changed. She no longer talked to her plants, or to anyone for that matter, not her mother or friends. Volkov grew worried, and then bored. After a few days of silence, he moved on to find a new subject. Zhdanov hears all. I think it's time for society to be redefined. From such small beginnings, we have come so far. With the majority of our enemies defeated and the undisputed control of our lands has been solidified, our fighting forces grew strong on the backs of scientific discovery and innovation. Literature and language is putty in our hands, shaped to our benefit. Our brightest minds construct rockets and discuss the spread of socialism across borders and between the stars. And beyond the stars, our destiny awaits. To show the universe the power of ultravisionary socialism, we shall complete Phase 1 of Comrade Kardashev's plan for civilization, achieving mastery over our planet, and prove ourselves the heralds of mankind's ascension. The superculture shall unite as one, and as one we go forth. There we go. Let's integrate Almaty. Probably the better move. And I'll wait for this tick to go through before we end up coring. Let's go with Pavel Odar. Yeah, Pavel Odar will be a good one to get. Next. How's our development coming along? It's going well, but it could be going better. The Sverdlovsk Design Bureau was one of the most effective scientific installations in West Siberia, established under the purview of Konstantin Rokossovsky, a talented general who was sadly unsuited to the demands of a superculture. However, his creation is responsible for many breakthroughs in the art of modern warfare and the technology needed for it. A more effective fighting force will be necessary to consolidate the bountiful resources of Russia. For our own purpose, the Sverdlovsk Bureau must be consolidated into the greater superculture for the benefit of all. Here we go, we get even more fucking research speed. We're already doing fucking great research-wise. I'm impressed, I really am. The shit is whack. It's crazy how well we're doing right now. In that regard. Now don't look at our economy. Oh god, it's $12 billion now. Uh-oh. So that's less desirable, obviously, but overall, I think we're doing pretty well. If you ignore the economic costs. Let's rehabilitate the personnel. Scientific minds are not just highly educated and useful, the men who possess them are highly advanced thinkers and the best suited to lead in the days ahead. Most men do not adapt quickly to the new demands of a day, and our leaders must do it most of all. These men must be fellow architects of a superculture, each doing his part to make humanity transcend its limitations and build a brave new world. We've recently acquired several scientists from Sverdlovsk whose experience in military applications of science will make fine additions to the collective. Prepare to rehabilitate them as ultra-visionary leaders. With their expertise, we shall touch the stars. Ah, yeah. Komi. Orsk might eventually be a good one to integrate. Oh, this will be a great one to integrate coming up. Just another 3 million manpower? Oh, that'll be a good one to pop. Ability to the personnel. Let's go ahead and... I don't want our poverty rate to worsen, so I think we'll apply Zhdanov Shina. Zhdanov Shina. I don't know. Ultra-visionary socialism must establish itself as a dominant and undisputed power upon this terrestrial body before presenting itself to extraterrestrial beings as a superior mode of society. Superculture cannot be challenged by external forces, especially not in a critical moment of first contact with an unknown civilization. It would drastically reduce our credibility to introduce ourselves as merely another of the powers of our divided world. As such, we must prepare our operations to weaken those who would see us dragged back into the cave of ignorance, secure all resources we can from them, manufacture circumstances so as to achieve dominance over the world. As long as the superculture remains vulnerable to earthbound influences, stellar adventures will have to wait. Kinda cringe, but it's gonna be necessary. We'll integrate Kokshitao. Get some improved cast boys going. When Igor Korchatov, a vice premier of the Presidium, announced a surprise addition to the agenda at the end of the meeting, many of its members feared what possible surprise they were going to spring on them. Perhaps some thought it was a scientific proposal that he couldn't wait to shove down their throats, knowing his status as Zhdanov's successor made him immune to normal parliamentary procedures. Others, more paranoid, feared it was the eventual beginning of a round of purges to prepare the way for Korchatov's eventual takeover. As it happens, neither of those possibilities happen. Comrades, I regret to inform you that I will be retiring from public life as soon as I am free to do so. The room collectively held its breath as he continued, stating his age made his position as vice premier a burden, and that a newer, younger generation will be best sought to replace him in 6 months' time, his official retirement date. What double entendres occurred were obvious, as Zhdanov, sitting right beside him, looked nervously at the members of the Presidium. When Korchatov finished, he was greeted with applause from the Presidium and Zhdanov. The chamber even passed a resolution with debate thanking him for his service to his countrymen, to the workers' movement, but few could ignore the new energy in the room, as the fears and ambitions of men came towards a force. Let's hope Zhdanov chooses someone younger as his successor. We'll wait and see there. So I'll save here just in case something bad happens and we don't get what we want. Neither Nikolai Kardashev nor Vladimir Chelomai knew when they entered the office of Vice Premier Igor Kurchatov of the cataclysmic announcement he was about to make. Typically, he did not meet with both at the same time. Their wildly different commissarial portfolios had little direct overlap in state policy, and when each other saw the other, attention was focused. A portent had just been simultaneously observed and understood, and just as quickly was answered. Kurchatov announced to the two men that he would, in the very near future, be announcing his retirement. The time had come for a change, he said, both for the Federation and for himself, and he had no intention of overstaying his welcome. Both Kardashev and Chelomai immediately understood the situation and their own place within it, as both saw their opportunity to replace Kurchatov and hereby increase their influence over the Federation's direction. It would be a difficult case to make, indeed, but the reward was well worth it. Working hard not to betray their intentions to the other, to Kurchatov himself, the two men offered their support for their superior's decision, as well as their thanks for his long and successful service, and departed soon after. Once out of sight, however, they began to move with increased speed. The race was on. For the position itself, of course, but also to secure the political support needed to obtain it. I think Kardashev is the natural choice. And that's what we'll be going with. So we got that coring. I think from here, probably Konstanty is the natural best after. And now, let's save this for last. Let's absorb compatible elements. The old nuclear weapons program was started by Bukharin's regime, and while not devoted to the same ultravisionary principles as us, many of the scientists will be willing and able to participate in our own efforts. We should make every possible effort to entice them into our service. Our supremacy lies ahead. Nikolai Kardashev was not sure if he was excited, panicked, or going to faint. It's probably a bit of all three. Kurchatov was retiring, and he had called Nikolai and Vladimir to his office to tell them that it was a race. For Nikolai, it wouldn't be in his favor, unless he could somehow convince Zhdanov the committee's boss as he sprinted towards the office of the People's Commissariat of Energy, taking names, numbers, the intelligence services, old reformers, a policeman, the People's Commissar of Industry, and he'd have to convince several of them. Chelomai was charismatic and suave, yet abrasive and self-assured. There was still a chance, but Kardashev couldn't sit on his laurels and just hope. So as minutes faded into hours, and hours faded into the evening, he remained at his desk, taking notes and doing his best to remember everyone he could. Haste is not always wasteful. Seated in his large office and exploiting its commanding view over the Federation capital, Kurchatov reflected on both his performance and his overall legacy to the Federation and smiled. He had done well, he decided, tapping his pen on a lace stack of reports. The cause of ultravisionary socialism had advanced tremendously. While the paramount leader was, of course, the man most responsible for that advancement, he knew he had been instrumental in helping him do so. But the time had come to hand over the reins and enjoy a retirement long deserved. Kurchatov had seen the look in both Kardashev and Chelomai's eyes when he had told them the decision. It was, after all, why he had summoned them. Both had seen a chance to replace him, and was sure that even now they were frantically moving to secure support. It would be a most interesting competition to watch, especially since he did not particularly care about the outcome. Both men, despite their vastly different outlooks, were visionaries. Both would hold the Federation in secure hands. Both would continue their journey towards the future in all fields. And at that thought he smiled again. The race had begun. With the impending resignation of Vice Premier Igor Kurchatov and the advancing age of paramount leader Andrei Zhdanov, a competition has emerged within the Presidium of the United Soviet Federation. People's Commissar of Defense Vladimir Chelomai and People's Commissar of Energy Nikolai Kardashev, behind the scenes, vie for influence on the Presidium and within the sectors of state apparatus that could secure them a succession. According to either minister, their path is a one that shall see the Federation prosper and ensure the ultimate triumph of the ultravisionary socialist ideal. So we have 180 days till he resigns. I think what we want to do, I believe we want to hit up the commissariats. Let's compromise, let's see. Let's compromise with financial commissariat. Fuck, they already sympathized with us. Go back. I should have paid more attention to that. God damn it. Okay. It'll be quicker to do with that, it seems. What I'm thinking is it doesn't matter necessarily too much about Zhdanov if he's gonna... If we can secure the power under everything, we'll do that again. I forget what I did here. The race has begun. Motorized, I think we agreed on. There we go. Let's foreign comms are it's leading towards HoI. Let's appeal to the Central Records Commissariat. I think that'll be a good one. Game of influence. Coming up. There we go, we've absorbed compatible elements. Now let's work on the atomic age, just because we probably should have got working on the nuke stuff a bit quicker. The darkness of collapse, it seemed inevitable that we would never be restored to an equal footing for nuclear powers. In the end, only Russians could master Russia and marshal her vast resources to any meaningful end. We shall split the atom and demonstrate to the world our overwhelming scientific powers. During the Bukharin era, Yaroslav was enhanced by the stars, their movements in light. His fascination with Soviet science fiction made novels lead to probably the most important choice he made in his entire life. He decided to dedicate himself to astronomy, but everything went to hell when the war broke out. His family, his hometown, his friends, all gone. Only thing left was his work. With the refugee caravan, he got to Sverdlovsk, where he was employed in a local research facility. Years passed, Yaroslav got fired for secretly spending facility money on a personal telescope, and then after that, he mostly survived on either doing manual tasks for pennies or teaching the basics of astronomy in rural schools. Until he got a letter. It randomly appeared in his mailbox one day. After reading it, Yaroslav froze for a second. It was an invitation to work for the government. The letter had a detailed list of Yaroslav's pre-war achievements. Some of them were forgotten by Yaroslav himself. He quickly departed the facility as if he had nothing to lose if he agrees. Not to mention the rumor that he heard about the scientists refused cooperation with the government in the Soviet Federation. After all procedures, Yaroslav was sitting in his new office, trying to estimate how much money was spent on the new facility. Just the equipment in the astronomical department probably cost the entire building facility he previously worked in, not to mention everything else. Whatever the government plans, Yaroslav was fine with it as long as they would let him do what he always wanted. This time around, money isn't an issue. Alright, looks like a Congo Crisis is popping off. So that's Lib Dem. That's Auth-Soch. Despotism. Auth-Dem. We'll see what happens there. Oh, the Africa Shield is still hanging on. Savimbi, for whatever reason, is, symptomed up with Fortuner. Oh, Hitlerstadt has fallen. Kardashev knocked on the wooden door and peeked through the large window into the meeting inside. A look of annoyance came from the manager, who was quickly place when he realized who was at the door. Comrade Kodashev, what a surprise! What brings you to the People's Commissariat of Central Records? I came in asking you what you might think of a few plans I came up with to improve things in your bureau. I've been working on how I would go to improve every part of the Federation, your commissariat among them. Care to give me a few moments of your time? Well, we were in the meeting of an important meeting. Perfect! It'll only be a few minutes. Now, how would you feel if I told you that everyone in this room would have their jobs revolutionized if I were to win the vote in the Presidium? I've discovered a new way to transform government administration called Cybernetic Management. Cybernetic Management is a way of the future. It's closer than you may think. Without much in complex technology or the dependence on computers, an important bureau such as yours could be twice as productive. With Cybernetic Management, a full organization of management and work processes could create peak administrative efficiency. Let's propose more automation in the workplace, getting computers more menial tasks, and making sure everyone knows their jobs. With computers taking the less desirable work, the workers can be managed like well-oiled machines. And everything I tell you today will happen the day I become Vice Premier. The old reformers are leading towards us, Foreign Commissariat. I think the... Probably the Industrial Commissariat will be good. It had been days since Kardashev had walked the halls and talked with bureaucrats in the People's Commissariat of Central Records. The committee liked his idea, calling him revolutionary and transformative, yet he did not get in confirmation that he would have support in the Presidium. Kardashev leaned back in his chair with a look of disappointment on his face, sure he'd failed. Suddenly one of his aides walked in the room. Comrade Kardashev, you have a letter from Commissar Polskanov. Taken the letter inquisitively, he was surprised it was from the rather reclusive Polskanov. He'd written a short letter, reading it to himself. Kardashev smiled. He would have the support of a Commissar of Central Records, and his plans were approved. Perfect. Ooh. That is huge right there. And with that, we're going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you as always for watching. If you like this video, leave a like. If not, feel free to dislike. If you want to see more of this content, feature, hit the sub button for more uploads every weekday, as well as occasional Saturdays. If you have any comments, feedback, and concerns, any sort, leave them in the comment section below. I read all the comments I get and appreciate any all feedback you might have for me. Want to chat, play games, anything sort, check out my Discord. If you want to send feedback my way, check out my Patreon. And if you want to see me do a survive up on Twitch, I'll put your description box below. That's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. My name has been DB333. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.